Welcome to Bicycle Retail Radio, the bicycle industry podcast that brings retailers, vendors, advocates, and thought leaders to the mic for honest discussions about the latest issues facing retailers while taking an in-depth look at the person within the profession.
Dejan, thanks for joining us on Bicycle Retail Radio. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for hosting me.
It has been an absolute pleasure to work with you and the team at UL Solutions over the past couple years now almost to get into battery safety, complete e-bike safety. And it's been a trip, right? I mean, it's been...
It seems like it's been a very long time since we originally met and started our relationship between the UL Solutions and NBDA. And I want to thank you, first of all, for outreach and everything the NBDA is doing on behalf of the retailers and dealers, and as well as manufacturers on, working on bringing the safe products to the market as well. So thank you from UL Solutions. Thank you for your diligence.
It's such an important conversation. And as we as an industry, our suppliers and retailers look to have safe products for our riders, it's something we're all working hard on. I know you're a rider and your daughter, your family too, right? So you can relate.
Yes. I'm an e-bike enthusiast. I own an e-bike. I own an electric vehicle as well. I purchased my electric vehicle 11 years ago. I can say that I was if not the first, but the second electric vehicle at the UL campus before we had, charging stations at UL. I'm an electrical engineer. I love everything about the flow of electrons. I'm also a retired club motorcycle racer. I love everything with two wheels and motors, and e-bikes are just an extension of my passion and what I like to do. My daughter's, as you know, you mentioned, competitive cyclist. She loves criteriums. Out of all the disciplines, she loves criterium racings. And I am here, I'm a proud father. I'm here to support her. But after all, I am as well an engineer that I want to make sure that products that are out on the market are safe for our consumers.
Yeah, and we have seen quite a number of incidents, unfortunately, involving fires, injuries, even tragic deaths related to poor quality e-mobility items. So I asked you onto this podcast because I think that there's so much that we could talk about just to give our listeners a little deeper dive into the UL 2849 certification, the UL 2271 certification. I want to even go into, what's involved in getting the certification, how long it takes. I have a slew of questions for you. I hope that's okay.
Sure, that's fine. I mean, unfortunately, e-bikes, they're fantastic. First of all, the e-bikes are here to stay. They're fantastic. I'm a huge proponent of e-bikes. They're giving the second youth to a lot of people, including my mother-in-law. I'm at her house right now, and she's 72, and she, hasn't ridden a bike in 50 years, and now she's riding an e-bike. And I have to say, it's bringing joy to everybody. And people that are opponents of e-bike, I only have two things to say. Please try them. They're absolutely phenomenal. They're phenomenal from the joy, from exercise, from health benefits, commuter benefits. They are absolutely joy, and they are changing the way we not only commute, but the way we exercise, the way we spend time with families. E-bikes are here to stay, and we just want to make sure that when we bring e-bikes to high rises, single-family homes, universities, that these e-bikes, these products, just like any other products, are safe, that they don't jeopardize anybody's health, anybody's life. We all know about New York City incidents. Unfortunately, 17 deaths this year alone. But these incidents are not unique to New York City. We know they're happening across the country. They're happening across the world. London Fire Brigade is reporting, but every other day they react to an e-bike related or micromobility related, respond to micromobility related fires. We know they're happening in Vancouver, Canada, in Los Angeles, and stuff. We know they're happening. It's just that New York City and FDNY are so fantastic in developing preventive measures, but they're also fantastic in reporting the incidents. So that's why New York City is in the forefront, but these incidents are not unique to New York City.
Yeah, it is. I'm happy to see New York City taking a lead here, but you're right. They're not unique. And I actually just yesterday saw something come across my desk that San Francisco is evaluating now that even the safe storage and charging for retailers and building owners for e-mobility devices. So this is something that I think we'll continue to see across the nation and across North America. More municipalities looking at how we're storing and how, what our processes around are around keeping people safe. So UL 2849, this is the complete bicycle. We have UL 2271 relates to the battery, UL 2272. There's a lot of different codes and standards. It might get confusing to some people.
Sure.
Could you just give us a rundown of those three, I guess, so our listeners have a basic understanding?
Absolutely, absolutely. UL 2849 is the standard for safety for electrical systems for e-bikes. That's the full name, UL 2849, standard for safety of electrical systems for e-bikes. And that is a complete system approach to an e-bike. UL 2271 is official names batteries for use in a light electric vehicle applications. So light electric vehicle applications and light electric vehicles are defined in the standard, what they are. And then UL 2272 is the standard for personal mobility devices, and that's typically your scooters or other personal mobility devices that are not e-bikes. So those are the three main standards. Obviously, UL 2271 is the standard that industry, as we know, has accepted as a de facto battery standard. We know from CPSC meetings in January of this year, December and January of this year, that industry supporting UL 2271, that is the appropriate standard for certification of batteries for use in light electric vehicles. Also, UL 2849 is the system approach standard for e-bikes. We know that both of us were present actually where Commissioner Mary T. Boyle from CPSC announced in October that CPSC is working on the mandatory requirements. We don't know what they are going to be yet, but we know that this is apropos the conversation we had earlier, where we said that these incidents are not unique to New York City; they're across the United States, across the world. And I'm glad the CPSC is taking a step forward and working on the mandatory requirements. That will change everything. That will eliminate necessity for municipalities or states to enact their own laws. I mean, they could to go above and beyond CPSC requirements, but I'm glad that CPSC is working on it. 2271 standard, UL 2271, people related to hoverboards. We remember the hoverboard incidents. That's the standard that was born from those incidents. Our director Ibrahim Jilani worked really hard on building that standard and was well recognized in the industry for bringing that standard to the forefront of safety. Now we have UL 2849. And UL 2849, you've seen the development of standard. It's not a new standard. It's been in development for almost 11 years now. Started as an outline and finally got published as a standard, official AMC binational standard between US and Canada. So it is not something that's new to people. It has been in development for 11 years.
So 11 years in development. How does a standard like this, what does that process look like? Is that UL working with other experts to develop a standard? Could you give anything more to what that development process
Sure.
looks like?
Sure. So UL 2849 started life as an outline of investigation. It was not an AMC standard. It was an outline of investigation that was developed by UL and some stakeholders in the industry. They sit down and said, okay, we recognize the need for a standard that will mitigate safety for electrical bicycles. And with the help of some stakeholders, that outline was created. That outline went through 3 revisions in a lifetime before became an ANSI, American National Standard Institute, accredited standard, and standard was approved with consensus. Their technical committees, formerly known as STP, Standard Technical Panels, that actually vote on each clause of the standard. The representation in this technical committee is from the industry, from the supply chain, from the government, from testing, inspection, and certification companies. So there's a pretty big technical committee, and everybody on that committee has a single vote, including us. So we have a single vote. Our competitors have a vote. Our industry, the track is on it, SRAM is on it, many other companies are on it. I don't want to leave somebody off the list, but they are on it. CPSC is on it as a non-voting member. Canada government is on it. We have members from the Netherlands on a technical committee, even though they're not part of the United States and Canada market, but they are vested in the development of e-bike safety standards. So it is a consensus-built standard. It's not a standard that UL or somebody behind me in the offices writes down and imposes on people. It's not. It is a consensus-built standard across the industry that encompasses, as I said, supply chain, manufacturers, TIC companies, testing, inspection, and certification companies, government organizations, etc. So it is a consensus-built standard. And by the way, it's very important to say that in those categories of technical committee members, not a single category can have more than a 33% representation. So it has to be well balanced across the board. And that's what brings, and that is for any standard. This is not just unique to UL 2849. This is for all standards bearing the UL name. That is how they're written. It is a consensus-built standard.
I appreciate that background because I really want to give our listeners a good overview of the work that UL Solutions does, because I think that some people might think that it's UL Solutions, putting a stamp on what they think is the right thing and saying this has to be done this way, but it's not. So first off, UL Solutions tests to many different certifications. We're talking home power tools. I mean, the list is pretty extensive. I've seen arcade machines, right? I mean, like it's not just e-mobility devices, it's electronics across many platforms, correct?
Correct. At any given point, for a person in the United States and Canada, if they look around, there's between 50 and 70 UL marks at any given point around them, from your outlets to your wiring to your monitors, the lighting, the computer, the cell phone, the batteries inside the notebook computers, your stoves, your microwaves, your refrigerators, freezers, lights, light bulbs, LED lights, your smoke detectors. There's so many products around you that have the UL mark on them for safety.
So you're testing multiple products, and then there's multiple certifications within in which committees are formed. And as you said, each committee has a very diverse group of panel members representing various organizations, and everyone has an equal vote. So before like UL 2849 could be decided on, this committee would meet and discuss and then equal votes. So it's really a collective unified voice from many people deciding.
Correct. Absolutely correct. So I'm looking at a technical panel that published the latest revision of the UL 2849. So we have University of British Columbia member. We have National Research Council of Canada. We have Intertech, which is our competitor. We have supply chain, the online power amps. We have Lyft, Track, Panasonic, CPSC, Robert Bosch, Quality Bicycle Products, CSA Group from Canada, obviously UL, Two Ryland, Exponent, Amazon, And then we have Netherlands Food and Consumer Product Authority, Hazmat Safety Consulting, right? We have Best Buy, SGS, SRAM. So many different organizations are participating in the development of the standard. And I believe, Heather, that MBDA now has a seat at the technical panel as well. So congratulations on that as well.
Thank you. Yes. And again, to point out to our listeners, there's even a competitor. So we will get into this later in the conversation, but UL is creating the platform for the standards to be made, but there's other people, other companies who can test to the standards as well. It's not just UL. Correct?
Correct. This is a ANSI accredited standard. There are other agencies that can evaluate product according to this standard. Yes. And currently there are 3 nationally recognized testing laboratories. UL Solution is one, Tuve Island is the second one, and SGS is the third. Those are the 3 nationally recognized testing laboratories with this standard UL 2849 in their scope of accreditation. They are, some others as well, but they're not. They're also NRTLs, but they don't have the standard yet in their scope of accreditation. But currently, there are only 3 accredited under the OSHA, Department of Labor, OSHA accreditation.
I'd like to get a little more technical if we're not already
Sure.
technical enough. We've got the battery certifications, and then we also have the complete bike, the complete system, which is the UL 2849. What is the difference there? I mean, I know testing a battery, but why would, if someone was to say, oh, just having the battery certified is enough, what's the argument for going the extra measure for the UL 2849?
There's so many. First of all, thank you. This is a great question. This is the question that that I see pretty much, I'm not going to say on a daily basis, but 2-3 times a week. I get this question either in an email from a consumer or from an importer or a retailer, or even manufacturer. They said our batteries are UL 2271 compliant, or certified, right? Why do I have to certify the UL 2849? UL 2849 is a complete standard. It takes a system approach. As CPSC says, they want a system approach. It's not just the battery. It's how this battery connects to the product, number one. Is this battery, how is it charged on a product? How is this battery connected to the motor controller? We know the motor controller is not part of a battery. Motor controller is outside the battery, most important part of any e-bike. It controls everything. It controls all the modes of operations, controls, cessation of motor assisting when an individual rider stops pedaling or reverse pedal, or the brakes are applied and so on if they're electronic brakes. So taking the system approach is extremely important. Having the proper components inside the e-bike, from wires, connectors, printed wiring boards in the controllers, overcurrent protection devices, that's all residing outside of the battery. Battery is just one component that is a major component. Most critical components, one would argue, most critical components of any e-bike. I mean, e-bike is not an e-bike without the battery. At that point, it's just, I like the term analog, right, bike. But it is important that we take a system approach. There's so many things that can impact that battery or create hazards that are outside of that battery. So when we evaluate the whole e-bike, we reduce any likeliness of anything outside the battery creating hazards to that battery. That is from impact, ingress of water, overloading, falling off, and stuff, and other potential hazards. So it's very important that it takes system approach. And I didn't even touch the chargers, right? The chargers are appropriately rated and compatible with the battery. They are charging. We have seen products that are using non-compatible chargers. We've seen, universal chargers on the market. That's why all reputable manufacturers put a sticker on the bike that says, please only use the charger that came in with the bike to charge your bike. And I've seen that advice from MBDA to retailers and consumers. Use only the products that came with your bike. That is extremely important. That's what's keeping us safe.
So without, we can't go into we can't go into the US Solutions headquarters and see what the testing looks like. But when you're testing the complete system, what's involved in that, I guess? Is it possible to give us a little bit of a glimpse?
Sure, but it all depends on what are the components. That's number one. We have state of the art labs across the world. We are about to open a new one. I keep where the location is secret for now. It will be announced very soon. But we have state of the art labs that we are testing products. In Norfolk, Illinois, we can test labs, but about e-bikes. But we know that most e-bikes come from Asia. So we have China and Taiwan, Solutions in Taiwan and Solutions in China. I have state-of-the-art labs. What does it take? It takes a lot. We have dynamometers where we strap the bikes on so that nobody actually rides the bike. We operate the bike to the manufacturer's specifications. We not only measure temperatures and how the product is assembled, but we look at construction is extremely important for certification. Testing is only 1/3 of the standard. 2/3 of the standard deal with components, selections, design, and engineering of the product, marking and instructions. So all those first have to be fulfilled before we can even start testing, because testing is based on the notion that product already complies with these construction requirements. Mm-hmm. So that way we minimize the necessity for testing. So if the battery is certified to UL 2271, we don't have to re-engineer and retest the battery itself inside the battery, but we measure the temperature when it's used on a bike, right? So because if you have a battery used on a 500 watt motor and versus used on a 750 watt motor, the loads on a battery is going to be different. So we are, trying to foresee all misuse of the battery, one misuse, one fault at a time, obviously, to try to make sure that the bike always operates in a safe operation. That the walk assist mode is truly a walk assist mode, and it doesn't activate inadvertently that the temperature of the motors that could be touched, right, the surface areas of the e-bike that could be touched do not exceed temperatures where somebody can be harmed, burned or such, or could be high enough that when spark can ignite, become a source of ignition of anything else. So we are looking at that. We're looking at every possibility. We don't test mechanical. That's CFR 1512 testing. We do vibration testing. We do impact testing. We do, egress protection to make sure that if the battery was evaluated and it's installed in such a way that there's a potential ingress of water or dust that is protected from it. So it's a pretty comprehensive testing. It's not just let's just measure 2-3 points and it's done. Absolutely not. We go through the performance requirements of the standard and we evaluate that. Also on a motor controller, hypothetically speaking, motor controllers gets the input of 36 or 48 volts DC for this particular conversation. There are some others, there are 72 volts that we are now seeing. They receive the input of voltage and then they have auxiliary outputs for powering lights, for powering auxiliary devices such as HMIs, computers, USB ports for, auxiliary connections of cell phones or whatever the consumer wants to connect. we want to make sure that none of those auxiliary outputs have access to the available energy and voltage that is hazardous. 36 and 48 volts is not a hazardous voltage, but there's a hazardous energy because the battery directly connects to the motor controller, and there are various DC to DC converters inside to step down that voltage to whatever is appropriate for that auxiliary output. We make sure that that is safe, that nothing in the motor controller failure would not cause overloading of a battery or in engaging the motor when the motor is not supposed to be engaged. So there's a lot of evaluation that goes on to the motor controller itself, in addition to the whole assembly.
It sounds to me like like if I was a supplier or manufacturer, it's just a good process to go, like good process to go through for all your products to ensure compliance with standard or even just safety for every user using it. And I guess that's where I want to go next, because there has been some varying degrees of conversation that I've heard at industry events about the process of suppliers getting certification, the timeline, the costs involved. So I don't know. I got some questions for you. I hope you're okay.
That's fine. That's fine. I understand, and I welcome all the questions.
It's a touchy subject. But since we're here, let's start with that. So say we have a supplier who has e-bikes and wants to take the step to get UL certification. What's the process? Like, can anyone reach out to you? Is there any special things that they need already before they come to you? Any documentation that's required, or can anyone reach out and begin the process?
Anybody could reach out to begin the process. There's no question about it. I get calls daily from brands in the United States and Canada. They want to certify the products. These are not necessarily brands that they are designing and manufacturing the product. These are the imported or just branding various types of products manufactured by somebody else. So we have process for everybody. If you are the big known e-bike manufacturer, absolutely. If you're just an importer under your own brand, yes, we have process. They can reach out to me. My email address is dejan.gakovic@uol.com. I'm sure there will be a somewhere in the bottom of this podcast, my email address, or they can just go to uol.com, micromobility, and click on contact us, or anywhere on a uol.com. They can, wherever they see contact us, and they put in e-bike, it will be routed to me. I'm a commercial global leader for Micromobility, so it will be routed to me or my team, and we will answer any questions they have. We'll guide them through what they need. We'll get information. Who are they in the process? Who owns the intellectual property of the design? And that will guide who can certify. There are options to certify directly with them. There are options to certify with the OEMs. If they are the OEM, that's even better. But anybody that wants to certify bike should come. Consumers, no. Consumers are the ones that purchasing the bikes. They can, because they are consumers. They purchase a product. But anybody who is importing, who is branding the product, or OEMs, ODMs, brands, they can all reach out to me or the uol.com, Micromobility, UL Solutions, and we'll take care of it.
Okay, that's super clear. Thank you for that. And then what about the timeline? So let's say I called you up tomorrow. I have a bicycle I'm looking to import into the US. I want to make sure it's UL 2849. I've chosen UL Solutions as the company, the firm that I'm going to do the testing. How long would it take for that testing for me to get certification?
It could be as quick as 2-3 weeks, and it could be as long as a couple of months. The turnaround time depends on how ready the product is for certification evaluation. Typically, not typically, but the clock starts when the sample is delivered and ready for evaluation. That's where the clock starts. because that's when we can actually put our hands on a product, we can do construction review of the product, we can determine the test plan, and we can determine exactly when the product will be certified.
Mhm.
That's where the clock starts. Everything prior to that is building up to that estimated completion date. How ready they are, what needs to be done. Is the battery already certified? Is the motor controller certified? Do they have access to the design parameters? If they're buying components off the shelves, there are a lot of motor controllers that are certified already, so that simplifies the certification process because then we don't have to do functional safety evaluation, we don't have to do safety evaluation on the motor controller because it's already done. Same thing with batteries. So depending on what the construction is, how soon can be certified. If we have to do everything, obviously, then that takes time because it might take time for the supplier, the applicant who applied for certification to get the information from the manufacturer of a particular component. If motor controller is not it's not certified and bought off the shelf, that manufacturer may or may not want to uh, uh, certify their product because that means they will have to allow us to come into their facilities. Uh, it all depends on the components. It all depends how ready they are for certification, and also depends on number of bikes. Let's be honest, number of bikes. But what we do at the very first conversation, we provide the manufacturers or the applicants with a spreadsheet. We ask them to specify all their models that they would like to have certified, to tell us what the motor is, motor manufacturer, the power, the battery, the model of the batteries, the battery certified or not, all this information. And then we try to group products into families, into series, because we don't want to repeat the work when it's not necessary to repeat. If we have a step through bike over a step over bike and they use exactly same components, that is a single bike. We then have to repeat maybe one or two additional tests on one of the frames because, for example, vibration tests we'll have to repeat because vibration is very different on a rigid step over a frame versus the step through frame. So they'll have to repeat potentially vibration test or potentially ingress if the battery is mounted somewhere differently than on the other. So we're trying to use as much testing from the previous model, so not to repeat, to make it simpler. We have customers that submitted, 20 plus models with, in the series when we're only testing 5, and it's a 20 model series. So that's the very first step. We determine what the scope of the evaluation is going to be. Is it a 1 bike? Is it a 10 bikes? Is it 20 bikes? And then what we can group in series, how soon that we can start, when the samples can be ready. That all impacts our completion date.
That makes perfect sense. So it's really a joint effort, and it's really going to be distinctly different for every single brand manufacturer client that you're working with. And then some processes can be sped up, maybe if they already have some certification on different parts, different components of this.
Sure.
That makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
And if the manufacturer buys already certified e-bike system, completely certified bike system, and they put it on their frame, we can do that very quickly within 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And we can do that within 2 weeks. That's very quick, very easy. If they're already buying a certified e-bike system on the market, if they are, and most importantly, if they come back with a second model and they're using again the same system that we already previously certified, we are not going to reinvent the wheel and start retesting everything. No, we're going to use all the data that's from a previous model and only test what's different. We will access the bike and we'll say, okay, this is different between the previously tested model and the new model. So these are the only tests that we need to conduct. This is the construction that we have to conduct, and we will price it accordingly. That we will not price it, at a full evaluation level.
Okay, so you opened me up to my next question. And I don't know how comfortable you are speaking to this, but I've heard several comments saying that testing to UL 2849 will bankrupt a lot of our suppliers and is so expensive, it's going to make product unaffordable for end riders. So any insight that you'd be willing and comfortable to talk about the costs associated with testing?
So the cost is highly dependent on the construction of the bike and the components they use. So it's really not that I'm uncomfortable talking about the price, but it's really dependent on each construction. It's not really something that I can, say out here right now, because it all depends. Are they using the previous certified battery, previously certified controllers? Are they already using appropriate connectors and such? It all depends on the construction of the bike. But most importantly, what I want to say is that right now on the market, there are certified UL listed e-bikes that cost a few $100s. And we have e-bikes that are certified that cost a few $1,000s. So they are already in the market e-bikes that they're in the range of $500 to $700, $800 range.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody say it's expensive, I understand the concerns. I really do. I really do understand the concerns. But on the other hand, we have products on the market that are priced at the points, $500 to $700, $800 market, the fully UL listed bikes. And then we have bikes that are priced in a $1,100, $1,200 range, $1,300 range, all the way up to a few thousand, and I have to say, tens of thousands of dollars, right? As different models and different brands price their products. But they are UL certified bikes at the very low end of the price point.
Yep. Yep. I appreciate the way that you answered that question. And, I think it's something that every supplier should definitely consider. And it's very valuable that we could all get there. All right. So it's not just UL Solutions. I know there's other companies or laboratories authorized by UL even to conduct testing for UL 2849, UL 2271. So tell us maybe a little bit more about how those other companies work, maybe, and how, like, maybe how does one choose who to go to? I guess.
They're first of all, they're not authorized by UL. We don't have that power.
Okay.
These are the companies that are nationally recognized testing laboratories. Our competitors, they participate in development of the standard. They have their own business case. They have capabilities, and they conduct certification just as we do, or it should, just as we do. I can't talk about their pricing. I can't talk about the turnaround time because, first of all, I don't have that data, and it would be really unprofessional of me to make comments on that. But they are companies out there, as I said, TV Island and SGS, that are NRTLs, just like as UL Solution. We pride ourselves to be the best in the world in what we do. We are the gold standard of product certification. I'm very proud for who I worked for the last 19 years. And I started as an electrical engineer evaluating products before I moved to commercial roles. How did customers choose? That's a business decision each customer has to, each manufacturer, each applicant has to decide on themselves. I know what we bring to the market, to the consumers, not only consumers, but to our customers. We are partners with them. We are not a transactional agency. We are partners with them. We want to bring the product, the safe product on the market. That's our goal. Our goal is working for a safer world. That's our mission. And it's a business decision for each applicant, each brand, OEM.
Yeah. I realize I'm putting you on the spot a little bit with that, but there is some misconception that UL is the only one who can test and certify to. So I'm hearing you very clear that there are other laboratories who do, other nationally recognized testing laboratories who do test to UL 2849. UL is not the only one. However, I couldn't be more vocal in my pleasure to work with UL Solutions. As an educational partner, you have been a tremendous resource for the industry, and you've really done a lot, I think, to help us get to where we are. So I'm an advocate for what you do, but I wanted to clarify for our listeners that there are other options. It's not I've heard the word monopoly or whatnot, and I want to be very clear about that. So
Correct. As I said at the beginning, we are not solely responsible for writing of the standard. Um, Anybody who ever purchased a standard, there is a list of every participant in the technical panel in the first few pages of the standard um, that participate in the development of the standard. If people are interested in becoming a member of the technical panels, they can reach out to us and we will evaluate if there is a room, first of all, available for them to participate depending on the categories. But we are not solely responsible. We have a single vote on it, and we're very proud of that. It's an ANSI process, American National Standard Institute process, DC in Canadian Standard Council. This is a important public safety issue, and no, we are not the only company that can certify it. The standard is called UL 2849, as all other standards in the United States are called UL standards. Uh, but yes, you're correct. There are agencies, national recognized testing laboratories. One thing that I want to stress, testing to and certified to are not the same thing. As I mentioned during the call, testing is only 1/3 of the standard. There's construction requirements, there's performance requirements, there's marking instructions requirements, there's design requirements in a standard. And testing tool, it's just a snapshot of a test. It's not a certification. Only nationally recognized testing laboratories and ISO 17065 accredited testing bodies can issue certifications. That's it. You know, Nobody else can issue certifications. So testing to is not equivalent to certified to. I just want people to understand that it is not the same.
I appreciate that. Something that we haven't spoken, I think, at all about today, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but how long UL certification lasts. So say I test my e-bike to UL 2849 this year. Do I need to renew it next year, or what does that process look like?
No, once you're certified, it's forever. Until you decide we don't want to have it certified. It's forever. It is there's no expiration date. No
And
certification.
is UL 2849, UL 2271, UL 2272, are they constantly going through upgrades or modifications, or like, as we move forward, are they under evaluation, or how does that,
Look,
what is that?
it is a long process. It is a process where the technical committee has to meet. Somebody proposes different changes to the standard. It goes through the process of revisions or approvals and so on, and it goes into it's a long process. It's not something they can change overnight.
Okay.
It's a very long process, and it takes a while for a standard to be revised, either reissued as a different edition or corrections or so on. So it is not something that can be done extremely quick. No, because there's an ANSI process that has to be followed.
I know, and I'm thankful for the way that you've been working with the MBDA, supporting our retailers with webinars, coming to the trade shows. I saw you at the People for Bikes event, e-bike specific event that just happened in Bentonville. How else are you working to ensure that UL is part of the discussion, involved in what's happening? I believe I saw you at the CPSC event. So what other ways are you making sure that you guys are engaged in keeping everyone best informed?
Well, thank you. I've seen you at obviously at the same events. We are fully vested in this. This is a public safety mission. We are engaged with all stakeholders, not just people for bikes or MBDA, individuals, suppliers, but also with ANSI, also with the New York City. And we have, by the way, I didn't mention that, but we have Dual Solution, which is our certification body, but we have also standards and engagement uh, business, ULSC, that is involved in the standard development and obviously engagements, hence the name, but they're also involved with the different entities. So we're fully vested in this. We're fully involved, not just with the trade organizations and manufacturers and retailers, but with anybody who wants to learn more about public safety, product safety, micromobility devices. We'll talk to absolutely everyone, absolutely everyone, from a single homeowners association president or a board member, which I get a lot of calls, by the way, from HOAs. And myself being a president of HOA, I can understand fully where they're coming from. From HOA presidents to full e-bike manufacturers to in universities, safety officers, to anybody who wants to talk micromobility, wants to learn about it. I'm here. We are here to talk and educate and make sure that we don't see the increase in casualties and property damage. Because we talk, loss of life is tremendous. There's nothing bigger than a loss of life. Let's be honest. It's really, really, really bad. 17 people have died in New York City alone this year. But there's tremendous property loss. There's a lot of injured people. We don't want any of that. If certification of e-bikes brings that on product safety, what we are striving, this is our mission, like for example, we definitely help.
Editor, we're gonna start that part again. Dejan, can you speak for a second? You're coming across weird.
I'm sorry. Let me make sure.
You're really. Try again.
Is it better now?
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Okay. All
Okay.
right.
So I forgot where we were.
No, that's okay. Our editor can make that good. He'll just probably take off a little bit. I'm going to start in by asking you, just saying something about consumer safety. So Dejan, you were mentioning 17 people in New York City have tragically lost their lives. You also mentioned building loss and I mean injuries. And maybe that is UL has taken such a leading role as the advocate for ensuring people are safe. UL standards and engagement, that is like their focus, to make sure that they're educating and making sure that as a nonprofit organization that they're out there ensuring safety. So I want to just talk about the other side. We've been talking a lot about batteries, UL 2849, but in that same regard, keeping people safe. I know that there's some developments, and I don't know if you can speak too much about this though, regarding even UL certification for battery storage cabinets. And this is like the next thing that we're looking at as in exploring as an industry. So it's not just the batteries, correct? It's other items as well that go along with that to ensure safety.
Correct. And I have to mention UL Research Institute. That's our sister company, just like Standard and UL Standard and Engagement and UL Solutions. There are three companies. UL Research Institute does exactly what the name says. They research all potential hazards. You're correct. The storage cabinets is the next step. We already have a mobile charging standard or charging equipment standard out there. It's outline of investigation. we are really working on, as I said, our mission is working for a safer world. We want to bring safe products. We want to limit or eliminate any potential hazards from any consumer products. We want all the products in our households, garages, households to be absolutely safe. And that's what we're working on. And we are engaging with anybody who shares that mission, who wants to contribute to that mission. We will absolutely work with anyone.
I'm thrilled that you gave up your time today to come on the podcast and give our listeners a deeper dive into the work that you're doing. Any other comments or anything that I failed to ask you before we go?
Well, I just want to reiterate, e-bikes are fun. They're fun products. They are here to stay. They're absolutely blast to ride. Anybody who hasn't ridden one, please go test ride one. The only drawback to testing one is that you will end up buying one. They are so much fun. There's no doubt about it. There are UL certified products out there that are in everybody's price range. There's the UL Gold label usually on a seat post or a seat tube. You know, look for the certification mark. They are products for everybody's budget. They're absolutely fun. They're great innovative products that's changing the world every day.
It is. It is. Well, I'm really hopeful to see you at one of the CABDA shows coming up here real soon. And happy holidays to you and your family. Thanks for coming on the podcast. And yeah, I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Bicycle Retail Radio. This podcast is designed specifically for the bicycle industry, dedicated to strengthening our retailers and cycling community. If it is your first episode, we urge you to take the time and listen to our past episodes.